The only Carpenter I love is the Lord our God. Sabrina Carpenter, a feminist icon, a male gazified harlot of the depths, or just a kooky quirky girly. This video was triggered when, you know what the fuck this is on about. I'm clout chasing. I'll put it on screen. Anyway, let's get into this. If you saw the previous video, let's do a cheeky quick media literacy rundown of all the discourse that's been going on about Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover and song. Number 1, Sabrina Carpenter is pandering to the male gaze. Sex sells, don't you know? Actually, she's making a liberal feminist point about how she can just do whatever she wants with the body. You know, women can be sexual too, you know? Did you not know? Actually, she's drawing attention to the fact that she's being perceived in this way and is doing satire. That's the point of the section, satire. Let's talk about that. Yeah, so probably doing satire, right? Almost definitely doing satire. Has mostly female fans. Album artwork is effectively calling herself a bitch. You know, man's best friend. Back cover is literally a dog. Female dog is called bitch. Of course, we can understand. Well done. Objectifying herself with the album cover. If we flash back to the 1975 example in the previous video, almost definitely the same. You just point to a thing aggressively, thus that we know you're not being serious. Classic irony, you know, fucking modest proposal, boomer Facebook memes, we understand. Say one thing, mean the other, well done. Okay, but as previously established, people tend to be a bit slow behind the eyes. So there's probably a number of people who are reading Sabrina as just sort of a hypersexual liberal feminist type. I can do what I want with my body. Anyway, just insert the clip and we'll just move on.
I'm actually a very normal amount of horny, and also just, you know, a lot of it is because I'm able to kind of have fun and play, and, you know, when I'm doing these live shows, it's just a matter of not taking things too seriously, and I love play on words, and I love funny innuendos.
The fun that she's talking about here probably isn't simply just, I can do what I want no matter what people think about me. It's probably what she tends to do in her lyrics, which is have fun with the entire thing and, like, own her femininity a little bit. And as I said, women like this. I don't really listen to Sabrina that much. She has a few bops, but not really. I don't think I'm the target demographic. But in fairness to those that are in the toilet, Paul's law is a thing for a reason, right? If you didn't know about the wider context, would you actually know that she's not being fully sincere? I mean, the makeup and the feminine appearance probably is sincere, but she is doing a bit with that as well. It's like, you know, Chapeau Roan. It's very, you know, the pop girlies love this these days. We do like a fucking throwback to traditional femininity. We go in full circle again. But the lyrics, almost definitely just her having fun, right? I mean, I didn't pay attention to Sabrina Carpenter's music till about 3 months ago, and I could tell that she was probably being a bit silly. I mean, the lyrics are so sort of crude and exaggerated that you kind of know that she's just having a bit of fun. You know what I mean? But still, without the full package, you know, the full package being reading interviews and Twitter discourse about Sabrina Carpenter album covers, would you actually know? Who knows? Anyway, let's move on. Satire or not, does that matter? Kind of yes, kind of no. I swear I'll get to an original point at some point soon, but we're just laying the groundwork and then we'll get there. Bear with me, guys. The argument goes thus. If you were doing satire, but the culture at large does not recognise that, or you're contributing or benefiting from the thing that you're critiquing, maybe it's not good enough that you weren't sincere about it. So, like, if in the case of a modest proposal, people did actually start debating whether to eat children in Parliament, I think John O. Swift was being a bit irresponsible. Cancel this man, I'd say it. Okay, but realistically, does what Sabrina is doing raise the level of eating babies? Yes, it does. I just want to add a bit of perspective here in this first bit. You know, a female pop star creating a bit of ham-fisted artwork about how she's being objectified is not really the hill to die on, in my opinion. As in, it's probably not meaningfully making women's lives worse. I mean, this is obviously a case of like, well, if no one voted, then, you know, whatever. But realistically, it's probably fine. But, you know, when we have Red Pill podcasts and OnlyFans being blasted through every young male's screen, I don't think the hill we die on is Sabrina Carpenter playing with femininity a bit. They must do, but I wonder the extent to which the radfems on Twitter might not be acknowledging the extent to which the reaction to Sabrina's album cover is probably from that same sort of bizarre place of disgust at overt female sexuality, which if we're doing cultural impact arguments, maybe don't side with them. But we'll get to that later, make a note on that. I'm 6'2", by the way, had to throw that in after all that shite. Cultural impact and parasociality. This is what I think hopefully, is an original point about this entire discourse. This could apply to any of these discourses, so I'm going to timestamp this for future reference in all my videos where I reference this. I spend most of my time these days wondering about what the sort of correct views are to spread to the general public, and it just isn't very clear what those views should be. Fundamentally, it's just very fucking hard, right? Because people cannot behave. For example, this video itself, a left-wing person might say that I, as a straight white male TM, should not be, but they would say I, a straight white male, should not be making a video talking about women's issues, let alone criticising women who have opinions on this. By doing this, I am taking space from people who have been marginalised historically and probably presently. So, like, fair enough, this does happen to an extent, but can they explain why this is bad? Often, I feel that people can't actually even articulate this. It's just sort of seen as a priori bad why this is the case, that I, who's not part of a marginalised group or cultural group that has been defined, can criticise other marginalised cultural group that is defined. But it does actually have a valid point. But the actual reason, mainly, as far as I can tell, is that almost necessarily I do not have the same standpoint as women, so I'll miss certain insights and perspectives that a woman would otherwise have. This is because, both in the sense that I am like tall and physically strong and dark and handsome, but also in the sense of socially, or downstream from that, socially I'm treated a certain way. I am treated with like certain social roles, and these social roles influence my perspective, blah blah. But this is the actual reason why someone would say I, as a guy, should not talk about women's issues. There are other reasons, obviously, but this is the main one, from what I can tell, or the main valid one. This is the main valid one. But for this reason, I'm going to link some videos in the description of women who I thought had interesting perspectives on this, and obviously they are actually women, unlike me. I'm not just doing this for brownie points, I genuinely take this seriously, so give them a watch. Just to linger on this a tad further though, it is quite funny to me the extent to which the lovers of standpoint epistemology and the lovers of Jordan Peterson are very, very different groups. But this is basically what pre-Benzo's Kermit was banging on about, right? Hierarchy of beliefs and things. The fact that it's actually very hard to perceive the world in like a very objective way, and your previous experiences or your ideologies that allow you to read the world are what influence what facts you prioritise. So in the case of this video, in the beginning, when I'm dismissing the sort of cultural impact and how much it actually affects women, Sabrina Carpenter doing some kind of like hyper-feminine display, I'm probably not recognising the extent to which that hurts women because I haven't had the experiences. But yeah, to say that is that people, I think, who are really into the standpoint epistemology stuff, feminist epistemology, whatever you want to call it, actually do miss the fact that this sort of standpoint problem applies to everyone. It's not just a thing based on intersectional groups. It's based on the fact that you're a human and you only have finite experiences of the world. Anyway, I'll touch on that more in that actual video, I think, if I do it and I get round to it. And all that being said, to go back to what this was about sort of cultural impact style arguments, a more right-wing person would say that me, by saying there that to some extent women's opinions on this matter more than mine, is actually a bad thing to propagate as well, because it will lead to sexism and discrimination against men. This is also a valid point, right? Both of these things are true. It is both true that standpoint epistemology is based, and true that people misuse these ideas and use it to silence people, like sociopaths and stuff. So yeah, so what should Sabrina do? I don't know, the world is complex and hard to predict. How a view is going to be perceived by the notable population, we don't know. They can't fucking behave anyway, so whatever you give them, they'll fuck up. You know what I mean? Fundamentally, I side with art. And insofar as she is making a wider artistic point, that being drawing from her experiences of being attacked by the left and the right for playing with femininity and her sexuality and things, I think she is making good art by at least one of the standards that I hold to be bearing on art quality, which is sincerely representing your internal state to the world. Communication of emotion, let's say, how your world experience, which, given what I said about standpoint epistemology 5 seconds ago, I feel like we need to give this a bit of respect, you know? Like, yeah, maybe it's not the most tactful in the world or something like this, but she is actually doing an attempt to create something artistic and sincere, and she's a pop star, so, like, you know what I mean? Like, what... You have to give it them. Is this low standards? I don't know, probably. Maybe she's doing a Katy Perry or some shit. I don't fucking know, dude. But, like, you know, I wanted to yap, so here we are. And this my friends, is where we get to the greatest thing to come out of this entire situation. The greatest tweet of the century. A concise pocket of information on the level of Camus. Sabrina Carpenter died yesterday, or was it the day before? The tweeted question: is insert pop star a feminist? Is MasterCard a queer ally? Is this TV show my friend? And this, I think, gets down. Gets down fundamentally to what I think is going on most of the times with these like for art criticism sort of discourse things. Which is, do people actually care about the societal impact type arguments, or are they just upset that someone they like doesn't agree with them, or no longer represents something that they thought they represented before, or is embarrassing to say that you ever liked it? Yeah, like, do they just want to see themselves reflected in product in this case being Sabrina Carpenter, somewhat ironically given the nature of the album cover itself. I will say, this tweet probably, I fear, does do the thing where it's like, well, public figures don't need to be responsible for what they put out. And I'm not saying that, as illustrated in the previous example with the eating babies. But it is an important point to remember. Now, with those people linked below, I do believe they're being sincere and they care about what they believe, they have their views, and they're trying to sincerely analyse what they think Sabrina's doing and her wider impact. But I think a lot of these people are not doing that. Let's just look at the sort of language that you would often see in these sort of minor cancellation events. It's like, they have disappointed us, they're letting down the fans, you know, oh, this is shameful, I'm ashamed to say that I ever liked her music. You know, it's like a disappointed dad. Maybe not that last one. But you know what I mean? It's not the language of moral condemnation as much. It's the language of sort of identity. It's the language of, I felt that you represented me. They've nested their identity in what this person represents, and now when that is seemingly shattered, they react in this manner. It's just parasociality. It's the fucking phones again. Do you know what I mean? It's the fucking phones again. But yeah, right, like, sex sells, so she could just be doing it cynically. Who knows? Hope you enjoyed.